Our underreported stories segment tonight, there's never a tragedy that liberals won't use to advance their political agenda. Never let a crisis go to waste, right? Take the recent hurricanes. You may think this was an opportunity for our nation to put partisan politics aside and come together to rebuild communities in Texas and in Florida. Well, if you thought that, you were wrong, because liberals are instead using these tragedies to push their radical climate change agenda. This happened at the Hurricane Relief Telethon this week. Watch.
We've come together today to love on the people that have been devastated by the hurricanes. When love goes into action, it represents no color of skin, no ethnicity, no religious beliefs, no sexual preferences, and no political persuasions. It just loves. As we should begin to love and value our planet, and anyone who believes that there is no such thing as global warming must be blind or unintelligent. Lord, please save us all.
With me now, President of Just Facts, James Agresti. James, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
Stevie Wonder came so close. If he had just stopped after that first paragraph, it would have been beautiful. It would have been unifying. Instead, he said, let's come together and love everyone, except those of you who disagree with me. You must be unintelligent.
I was feeling the love until he called me an idiot.
That's right. That's right. James, let's talk about this from your perspective. Your website's very fascinating, by the way. You come at these issues not from a partisan standpoint, but from just a factual standpoint. You look at the research and you put it together. It's absolutely great. You've done this when it comes to global warming, climate change, and hurricanes. Tell us what you found. Has global warming or climate change worsened hurricanes like Harvey and Irma?
The most comprehensive data on hurricanes in the U.S. comes from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, a federal agency. And in their words, since 1900, hurricane activity has slightly declined over that period. So the answer to your question is a clear no. There is no cogent evidence that hurricane activity has increased in the US or in the world over the past 100 years. And moreover, there's just no evidence it's outside the bounds of natural variation. It's quite, if you look at the data, which we've graphed at justfactsdaily.com, you can see it is a very stable phenomenon. It's not something that's increasing with increasing atmospheric CO2.
Right, it's very interesting. And by the way, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, they're not exactly an objective government agency here. They were caught falsifying data in order to try to push the Paris Climate Accord. So if even they say that there's no data that shows that hurricanes are increasing, that really tells you something. James, let me ask you, though, I want to talk about some of these liberal claims because they're not always easy for people to debunk unless you have studied the scientific data. Clearly, you have here. Liberals are talking about sea levels rising. They're talking about storm surges. They're talking about, all this increased warming increases the intensity of the rainfall. Is there any scientific backing to any of those claims?
Well, sea levels are rising. They've been rising for almost 200 years now, long before man-made emissions of carbon dioxide were even 1% of natural emissions. So, and has man-made emissions increased that? Possibly. But again, if you look at the data, which we've charted on our main website at justfacts.com, you don't see an acceleration. What you'd be looking for if we were having this drastic effect on climate would be an acceleration in sea level rise. And we don't see that. We see a steady rise. Again, is it possible it may happen? Sure. But let's not conflate the facts here of what may happen versus what happened.
Right, okay, absolutely.
What happened?
No, go ahead, finish your thought. I was just going to say speculation is not science, and that's where I think many of these people make the mistake because, like you said, if you look back before these CO2 emissions became such a big deal, became such a higher or a larger percent, they're still not a high percent, a larger percent of our atmosphere, the graph showed a steady increase. Then after these carbon emissions started polluting our atmosphere, it continued the increase. Sea levels continued to rise at the same rate. There was no increase. So I don't understand where liberals are pulling data that the CO2 emissions impact it at a greater level than before.
Well, I'll tell you something. One of the best techniques of demagogues is to use anecdotes. Okay, the Earth's climate varies widely over time and space. The ground I'm on right now in New Jersey was once under a glacier that scientists estimate was a mile high. Okay, that glacier came and went without the internal combustion engine around. So if we're going to determine if we're having an effect on climate, we have to look at the long-term data. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, we had 2 horrendous hurricanes. Yeah, fine. But what is the regular hurricane frequency over history? That's what we have to look at to make an informed decision. And it's critical we make an informed decision here. If the liberals are right and we're going to flood our earth, then we need to make an informed decision with the facts. But if they're wrong, we cannot misallocate these resources, which actually throws good money after a stupid cause that harms people. That money could be going to healthcare, education, food. We have to have the facts to properly allocate the resources.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. It's irresponsible of people on the left. It's irresponsible of liberals. It's irresponsible of pop science icons like Al Gore to toss around these allegations that climate change, man-made climate change, is the only cause of hurricanes like this. And they're making it worse, that they're the reason people in Houston and in Florida are suffering the way they are. It's absolutely irresponsible, and it's exploiting people who are vulnerable, people who are hurting. And I encourage our viewers to go to your website and look at these facts. It's fascinating. You guys did good work. James, thanks for being here.